Hello everybody, it's your friendly neighborhood ghost here, and today we're going to go over 10 tips that'll help you in Ground Realistic on War Thunder. Now if you're like me, you started off playing arcade, and got sick of everybody knowing where you're at all the time and, knowing your weak spots, and so you went to Ground Realistic, and it's really hard. It's very hard. Has a very steep learning curve, but I'm hoping that today I can help you a little bit with that. Now, by no means am I a professional, but I do have quite a bit of experience in War Thunder. I have over 1,000 hours in War Thunder, and I do have some matches where I get, you know, upwards of 10, 11, 12, 13 kills. Heck, I just had two games yesterday where I got one was 12 kills and 2 kill assists, and the other one was 13 kills and 3 kill assists. So I do know what I'm talking about when it comes to Ground Realistic. I've got quite a bit of experience in it. And so, yeah, let's get into it. So, our number one tip is to use your binoculars. It is very important that you know how to use your binoculars. I might show a clip in this, I don't know. Depends on how crazy professional I want to get. But the thing that you got to know about your binoculars is your gun sight is right next to your gun. That's usually where your gun sight is. In fact, I think that's where it always is. It's, either right next to your gun or in the position of your gun. And so the binoculars are actually from the position of your commander. And so your commander is almost always going to be on top of the tank. So what you can do with that is if you use your binoculars, you can actually see people over hills and they can't see you unless they're using their binoculars, and even sometimes they still can't see you when they use their binoculars. And so what you can do with that actually is you can position your gun with your binoculars and you can actually shoot over hills to hit people. And I just did this yesterday, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to find the clip. But you can aim your gun over the hill with the binoculars and pull the trigger, and the bullet drop will take it over the hill and hit the enemy. So, not only is using your binoculars good in the sense that you can see people without being spotted, but you can also get some cheeky shots in using your binoculars. I can't tell you how often I use my binoculars. I actually switched the key binding from B to F, if that helps any of you. I know that F is usually repair, that's why I moved repair to R, because R stands for repair, and then F is just right there for your binoculars. But I am constantly pressing F in battles to use my binoculars because they are just so invaluable. Like, when I first started in Realistic, this was the first advice that I came across when I tried to get better at Realistic. And I just blew it off for the first little while. But as I started to use my binoculars more, I started to realize the value of them. They are very valuable, and you should not take that for granted. Alright, tip number 2, watch the map. In the bottom right hand corner, you have a little tiny mini map. And there's a lot of information that can come through there. It's very important to understand that there are many ways that you can find enemies on the map. Whether it's friendlies pinging on the map, which if you're wondering how you do that, you just press M or hold Alt. M will bring up the big map and you can click where the enemy is at on the map and it'll ping it. Or if you hold Alt, you can click on the tiny map and that'll ping them somewhere. But not only can they ping them, but also if they shoot them with machine guns, that'll ping them on the map. And also, if a scout vehicle scouts them, then they'll be pinged on the map for a very long time. And it's very invaluable that you understand that. And it's, the amount of times that I have seen something on the map and went there and got a kill is ridiculous. Like, the map is so very good. And, something that I can also bundle into this is if you know there's a tank somewhere, make sure to watch the kill feed to see if they die or not. That way you know if that area is safe or not, or if you need to go take care of the threat. So, Watch your map and also watch the kill feed. That's all I have to say for this section. Alright, tip number 3. Check corners. It's ridiculous the amount of times when you start out that you just book it past corners and there's an enemy right around the corner, and as soon as you cut across they shoot you. You have third person capabilities in realistic mode, and you can use that to your advantage. If you just peek around the corner, you can free look by holding C. You just use the third person to look around the corner, and if you don't know how to do that, you can figure it out. It's pretty easy. Yeah, you just sort of look really far to the right if it's a corner on the right, and you can see around the corner without being there. And it'll save you many times from those unexpected deaths, because you will see the person there around the corner and they will not catch you off guard. You'll know they're there, and they might know you're there too, but you won't get the lower hand. Like, they won't have the jump on you anymore. You know they're there. You can start to think about what you're going to do about this person. Whereas if you hadn't checked the corner, then they were just going to slap you, and that was going to be the end of your match, and you're going to be really pissed. So check your corners. It's a very simple thing to do, and it'll save your butt many times. I can promise you that. Alright, number 4. Listen. It's something that, some games are really heavy on and some are not. War Thunder is pretty heavy on listening. When I first started playing, I listened to music while I played, and as I've gotten better at realistic, it has gotten to the point where if I start a match with music, as soon as I get into the thick of it, I start to get very anxious, and I have to pause the music because I gotta be able to listen to my surroundings. You can hear gunshots coming from everywhere. Like, if they're right next to you, you'll know if you have good headphones. And even as simple as hearing engine noises, it is so easy to hear engine noises if you really just listen. I had a game yesterday where I was aiming at somebody else, but as I was aiming, I heard somebody coming up the left of me. I knew that they were there because I heard them, and there were no friendly markers nearby. That's when you got to check your map too. If you hear something, you got to check to see if it's a friendly. If it's not a friendly, then you know it's an enemy. And I lost the guy for a while, but eventually the guy I was aiming at came out. I popped him, and sure enough, the dude came up behind me and slapped me in the back. But I knew he was there, and so it didn't catch me off guard that he killed me because I listened. And it's gotten to the point now where I don't know if you guys I don't know, most of you guys probably watching this video have never gotten the M41A1 Bulldog, but that tank, whenever you idle, it'll idle normal for a second, and then it'll sort of rev the engine up. And every time it does that, I think there's an enemy nearby, and I have to remind myself it's just this tank that does this weird thing. But it's, once you start to listen, you will start to understand, what tanks sound like and where it's coming from, and it'll help you out a ton. So, turn off the music and just listen to the environment. It'll help you out a lot. Alright, number 5, know your maps. This one, among a couple others in this list, are going to take time to understand and to really, get. But knowing your maps is very important in War Thunder. There are good spots and there are bad spots. You will slowly learn them over time, but if you have a map that just doesn't work for you, don't go to the same spot every time. Go other places. Try to find spots that work for you. And if something works for you, then go to that spot every time until it stops working for you, and then go find another spot. And it's good to have multiple spots that you can go to, because then, if one spot isn't viable for the situation, you can rely on another spot. And you'll know when you have a good spot because, enemies will come out in front of your gun and you won't have to do anything in order to see them, and you'll be blocked from their vision. It'll just be a surprise to them that you're there. And if you go watch YouTubers, they usually have their own spots that they go to, and you can learn from them. And so map knowledge is very important. All right. So now we've got the basic stuff over with. Now we're getting into a little bit more complicated stuff. So this number 6 is don't rush into caps. This one, you might not understand it at first. When you rush into a cap, that automatically gives away your position. Like as soon as you go into a cap, the enemies know that there is a bad guy on the cap. And so if you just sort of hover around a cap, if it's in enemy control, then just drive into there and drive away, because if you stay in the cap, they know you're there. And it's not going to be a surprise to them if they find you there because, you're in the cap. So if you come across an enemy cap, get it decapped and then get out of there. And you just have to drive in there for it to start decapping. You don't have to sit in there. If it is not captured by anyone, then don't worry about going into there. Just give it a second to see if anybody on the enemy team decides to go into the cap. And if they do, then they're in there and they don't know that you're sitting right outside waiting for them to show up. And then if an enemy is capping your base, then that is a time that you do not want to go in there under any circumstance, okay? The only time that you'd want to go in there when an enemy is capping your base is if it is like last second, you don't want them to cap this. But if you have time, just hover around that cap and wait to see the enemy. If you see the enemy, then you can kill the enemy and go in and cap. But if you go into the cap, it'll tell them that they've stopped capturing the base, and then they know that somebody else is in the cap. It's all about the element of surprise when it comes to capturing, and a lot of people just rush in there and automatically give away their position. And it drives me nuts when they do this, because then they know that there is somebody on the cap and they can react to that. War Thunder is huge about the element of surprise, so just don't rush into caps. Give it a second. Wait for the enemy to make the first move. Alright, number 7. Watch friendly bullets. Chances are, when friendlies are shooting, they're shooting at something. And usually it's an enemy tank. Sometimes you'll come across stupid people who are shooting at buildings and whatnot. But most of the time, they'll be shooting at an enemy. And I'm not saying to steal their kill, but sometimes they're in an last-ditch situation. They might be repairing. They might have a gunner gone, and they just were able to get one shot on the enemy. And so, when you see bullets fly from friendlies, you just know that usually they're shooting at something. And so I usually hop into my binoculars, look at where they're shooting, and most of the time there is something that they're shooting at. And so it's either, a kill assist or a kill for me. And once again, I'm not saying to kill steal, but sometimes it's, you can really help somebody out by watching where they're shooting and understanding, there might be something over there. It's a pretty easy tip, but it helps in a long way, long way. Know your enemies. This one is pretty freaking important. There are a lot of tanks in this game that have a lot of armor, and then there are some that really don't have any armor. And so, like for example, I don't know if you guys knew this, but the Hellcat, a lot of the armor on that thing cannot stop a 50 cal bullet. And so if you have a 50 cal in your tank, you don't even have to shoot the guy with a regular bullet. You can just spray him with your 50 cals and you can usually get the kill. Whereas T-34s have very thick sloped frontal armor. And so if you just shoot that, then, if you have less penetration, then you're not going to get through the sloped armor on the front. But the cheeks of the tank, and on most tanks, the cheeks of the tank, which is the sides of the gun where the mantlet isn't, that's pretty weak armor there usually. Same with the lower glacis, which is the bottom slope underneath the tank. That usually doesn't have very much armor. And then sometimes shooting at the mantlet on some tanks like the Panthers, it'll go through. So knowing your enemies is very important. It'll help you get kills not only in your own BRs, but even if you get up tiered. It's very helpful to know that you can pan a Panther with, an M4A3E2. It's just you got to know where to shoot. And so knowing your enemies is pretty important. All right, number 9. This is probably by far the hardest thing to learn in War Thunder, and that is bullet drop. Some tanks, the bullet drop is pretty easy to manage, but others like 150 millimeter cannons and stuff like that, it's just so unbelievably hard to understand the bullet drop. The one piece of advice that I can give with this is, number one, you can go into arcade and that'll help you learn your bullet drop of your tank. But I wouldn't recommend it. It's not going to help you very much because the bullet drop indicator kind of lies a little bit. And also, number 2 is drive tanks that have a lot closer, a lot higher muzzle velocity. And what that means is, like, when you zoom in, the lines for the bullet drop are a lot closer. And so those ones are a lot easier to aim at long distances rather than your 150 millimeter ones where it's spaced out so far that you have to aim so far up. And there's a setting that you can change to where you can adjust that so the center of the crosshair will be at a certain distance. I can't remember what the setting is called. I'm sure you could find it if you Google it. But a lot of bullet drop just comes with muscle memory. A lot of the tanks that I get that are new, I automatically understand the bullet drop because I've had so much time messing around with bullet drop that I just know what distances I need to aim at. And you won't always get them first try, but eventually you'll get to a point like where I'm at where you'll see a tank driving across the field way out there and you'll manage to guess his bullet drop and his lead angle, and you'll just connect and it'll just blow your mind that you did that. And so just get to know your bullet drop. It's going to be hard, but you can do it. All right. And finally, we're on to number 10. This is by far the most important piece of advice that I could give you. I mean, all the other stuff will help you very incrementally, but this one, if you just wait, that is like any War Thunder YouTuber will tell you that the best way to understand War Thunder Ground Realistic is map knowledge and waiting. A lot of success comes from just waiting. If you don't wait and you just drive all willy-nilly all over the place, you are going to put yourself into a bad situation. You've got to wait for the enemies to put themselves in the bad situation. You do not want to make the mistakes. You let them make the mistakes, and then you don't suffer. You actually are rewarded for waiting. It's it's a little bit hard to get down at first because it comes with the map knowledge, knowing where to wait. But if you just wait for the enemies to make mistakes, you will catch them off guard almost all the time. All the time. And so just learn to wait. It's unbelievable how much waiting improves your gameplay. So, yeah, that's my last piece of advice. Alrighty, guys. That was 10 tips to help you get better at Ground Realistic. I hope that these can really help you out. I know that I wasn't using any of these when I started, and as I've gotten better at the game, all these have, came together to, make me into a somewhat comparable player. and I hope these can help you become competent players. But um, this is the first step in what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to educate people more on War Thunder. My tutorial video for how to fly Russian planes is skyrocketing in views, and I don't know why I'm not, trying to expand on this, because it's obviously a needed field. When I first got into ground realistic, there was like no advice online as to what would help you improve, and so I'm gonna upload this video, and then I'm planning. I don't know how well this is gonna go because I'm very busy, but I'm planning on releasing videos where I analyze games, and it's most likely gonna be me at first, but as we get a bigger following, hopefully you guys can send in videos and I can analyze. As for right now, I'm just gonna go off of games that work, because usually there's a lot more that I can do in games that work, because games that don't work, it just, there's not enough time to analyze that. So, games where I get like 8-9 kills is probably what we're going to be shooting for. But hope you guys can be excited about that. I am. But anyways, I hope this video helped you out, and if you're really interested in the analyst videos, then feel free to message me. Leave a comment down below, and I'll get a hold of you if you want to send some gameplay. But as for right now, we'll just do my stuff, and I hope this video helped you guys. And don't forget to subscribe. I'm not going to ask you to like, because I think that's stupid. But yeah, just subscribe, comment if you want, and thanks for watching.